Walter thought his grandkids were just busy until he overheard his daughter on the phone. "Dad's becoming impossible to be around." Those words hit like a thunderbolt. At 73, he realized people had been pulling away for months. Fewer dinner invitations, shorter phone calls, awkward silences at family gatherings. The truth? We all develop habits in our later years that push people away, but nobody has the courage to tell us. Today, I'm going to share 13 behaviors that might be making your loved ones avoid you, and more importantly, how to fix them before it's too late. Because here's what nobody tells you. Aging gracefully isn't just about health. It's about staying someone people want to be around. Stick around for habit number 7. It's the one that shocks everyone, yet 8 out of 10 seniors do it without realizing. Meet Walter Hutchinson, a 73-year-old retired engineer from Ohio. For decades, he was the life of every party, the favorite grandpa, the friend everyone called for advice. But something changed after retirement. Family visits became less frequent. Friends stopped inviting him to coffee. His grandchildren seemed distant. The wake-up call came during what should have been a joyful Sunday dinner. As Walter launched into another story about how things used to be, he noticed his grandson quietly slip away to another room, his daughter's forced smile, his son-in-law checking his watch. That night, alone in his house, Walter made a decision that would transform his relationships forever. What Walter discovered, and what I'm about to share with you, isn't comfortable to hear, but it might just save your most precious relationships. These 13 habits creep up on us so gradually, we don't even notice them. By the time we do, the damage is often done. But here's the good news. Every single one of these habits can be changed, starting today. Before we dive in, if you're brave enough to face these truths and transform your relationships, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, your future self and everyone who loves you will thank you. Now, let's start with the habit that drives people away fastest. 1. The Complaint Chronicles. You wake up, and the first thing you mention is your aching back. At lunch, it's the terrible service. By dinner, you're listing everything wrong with the world. Sound familiar? Here's what Grace, a 68-year-old former teacher, discovered. She'd become a complaint collector. Every conversation started with what was wrong. The weather, her health, the neighbors, politics. She didn't realize it until her best friend gently said, "Grace, I love you, but lately, talking to you feels heavy." The truth hit hard. Grace had unconsciously trained her brain to spot problems everywhere. But here's the science. Our brains are wired for negativity as we age. It's a survival mechanism. The problem? In modern life, this makes us exhausting to be around. The fix isn't pretending everything's perfect. It's the 3-1 rule. For every complaint, share 3 observations that aren't negative. They don't have to be overly positive, just neutral or pleasant. The coffee was weak becomes the coffee was weak, but the barista had such a warm smile. And did you see those beautiful flowers outside? Reminds me of Mom's garden. This isn't toxic positivity, it's brain retraining. Grace started a complaint jar. Every time she complained unnecessarily, she'd put in $1. After 1 month, she had $47. After 3 months, just $8. Her friend noticed immediately. "You're like the old Grace again." The key? Catch yourself mid-complaint. Pause. Ask, is this worth the emotional energy? Most times, it's not. Have you noticed yourself complaining more lately? Drop a comment below. No judgment, just awareness. 2. The broken record syndrome. Picture this. Samuel, 71, telling the story of his hole-in-one for the 15th time to the same person. His nephew finally texted his mom. "Does Uncle Sam remember he's told me this story every visit for 2 years?" The answer was heartbreaking. Samuel had no idea. He thought each telling was fresh, exciting, new. This is the broken record syndrome, and it affects 7 out of 10 people over 65. Here's what happens. As we age, our story filing system gets fuzzy. We remember the story perfectly, but forget who we've told. Worse, we mistake polite smiles for genuine interest, encouraging us to tell it again. The result? People start avoiding us because conversations feel like reruns. The solution shocked Samuel with its simplicity. The story tracker. Keep a small notebook or use your phone. After sharing a story, jot down date, who, what story. Before launching into a tale, check your tracker. Can't remember if you've shared it? Ask. Stop me if you've heard about my fishing trip. But here's the game changer. Develop new stories. Yes, at 60, 70, 80 plus. Take that cooking class. Visit somewhere new, even if it's just a different coffee shop. Read an interesting article. Fresh experiences create fresh stories. Samuel started volunteering at the library. Suddenly, he had new tales. About the teenager he helped find books on astronomy, the poetry reading that moved him to tears. His nephew now looks forward to visits. Uncle Sam always has something new to share. What's a story you've caught yourself repeating? Share below. 3. The expertise monopoly. Linda spent 35 years as a nurse. She knew medicine inside out. But at 69, she couldn't understand why her daughter stopped sharing health concerns with her. The reason? Linda had turned every conversation into a medical consultation. Headache? You need to check your blood pressure. Tired? Could be your thyroid. Her expertise, once helpful, had become a barrier. This is the expertise monopoly. When your professional knowledge dominates every interaction. It happens to teachers who can't stop instructing, accountants who critique everyone's finances, mechanics who diagnose every car sound. Your expertise becomes a hammer, and everything looks like a nail. The problem isn't your knowledge, it's the unsolicited delivery. People want connection, not consultation. They want empathy before expertise. Linda learned the ask first rule. Before offering advice, ask, would you like my thoughts on this, or do you just need me to listen? The transformation was immediate. When her daughter mentioned feeling tired, Linda bit her tongue. Instead of diagnosing, she said, that sounds really frustrating. How are you handling it? Her daughter opened up in ways she hadn't in years. Later, she actually asked for Linda's medical opinion. Here's the golden rule. Lead with empathy, follow with expertise, but only when invited. Your knowledge is valuable, but your connection is priceless. People need to know you care before they care what you know. Think about it. When did your expertise last shut down a conversation? How could you handle it differently next time? 4. The technology wall. When Richard's granddaughter tried to video call him for his 70th birthday, he panicked and hung up. I don't do that computer stuff, he muttered. She didn't try again. Richard had built what I call the technology wall, a barrier that says, I'm too old for this. But here's what he didn't realize. He wasn't just rejecting technology, he was rejecting connection. In today's world, refusing to engage with basic technology isn't just inconvenient, it's isolating. Your grandkids share their lives through photos and messages. Friends organize gatherings through group texts. Medical appointments, banking, even grocery shopping, it's all moving digital. When you say, I can't learn that, you're saying, I can't participate in modern life. The truth? It's not about age. It's about attitude. Violet, 82, learned to use Instagram to see her great-grandchildren's photos. Was it easy? No. Worth it? Absolutely. She started with one app, one function, 10 minutes a day. Her secret? She asked her teenage neighbor for help, trading homemade cookies for tech lessons. Richard finally decided to try. His granddaughter's face lit up when he successfully video called her. Grandpa, you did it! That moment was worth every frustrating minute of learning. Now he sends daily joke texts to his family group chat. His daughter told him, Dad, you feel so much more present in our lives now. Start small. Pick one technology tool that would improve one relationship. Struggle is normal. Everyone feels it. But connection is waiting on the other side. What's one tech skill you've been avoiding? Today's the day to start. 5. The stubborn fortress. I've done it this way for 50 years and I'm not changing now. Sound familiar? Meet Roger, 75, who refused to try the new coffee shop his wife suggested, refused to take a different route to avoid construction, refused to consider his doctor's gentle suggestion about updating his diet. His motto? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But here's what was breaking: his relationships. Stubbornness in older age often masquerades as wisdom or principle. But there's a thin line between being principled and being rigid. When you dig your heels in on everything, people stop suggesting anything. They stop including you in plans because dad won't like it anyway. You become the immovable object everyone has to work around. The psychology is fascinating. As we age, change feels threatening. Our brain interprets different as dangerous. But this survival mechanism becomes a social prison. Roger's wife started going places without him. His kids stopped inviting him to new restaurants. His world shrank, one no at a time. The breakthrough came when Roger's grandson said, "Grandpa never wants to do anything fun." Those words stung. Roger realized his no had become automatic. He started the Yes Day experiment. Once a week, he'd say yes to one new thing, small things. The new coffee shop, a different brand of cereal, a movie he normally wouldn't watch. The result? The coffee shop had amazing pastries. The new route showed him a beautiful park. His wife's eyes lit up when he said, "Sure, let's try that new place." Flexibility isn't weakness, it's strength. It says, "I'm still growing." What's one thing you've been stubbornly refusing to try? 6. The interruption engine. Patricia couldn't understand why conversations seemed to die around her. At 72, she was sharp, engaged, interested in others. But here's what she didn't see. She interrupted. Constantly. Someone would start a story, and Patricia would jump in with her own. A friend would share a problem, and Patricia would cut them off with the solution. She thought she was being helpful, engaged. Others felt unheard. Video recordings reveal that people over 65 interrupt 40% more than younger adults. Why? Our processing speed changes. We fear forgetting our point, so we blurt it out. We've heard similar stories, so we assume we know the ending. But here's the cost. People stop sharing. They give you the surface because the depths get interrupted. Patricia discovered this when her daughter said, "Mom, you never let me finish." She was devastated. She thought she was being an active listener. The solution? The 2-beat rule. When someone stops talking, count 2 full beats before responding. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It feels eternal at first, but those 2 seconds are magic. What happens? People add more. They share the real stuff. They feel heard. Patricia started practicing. The first week was torture, biting her tongue, counting beats. But then her daughter called with news. Patricia listened, counted, waited. Her daughter kept talking, sharing fears about a job change she'd never mentioned. "Mom, thank you for really listening." Try it today. In your next conversation, focus on not interrupting. Count those beats. Watch how the conversation deepens. Notice how much more people share when they know you're truly listening. How often do you catch yourself interrupting? 7. The boundary blindness. At 74, George thought being a grandparent meant unlimited access. He'd drop by his son's house unannounced, call during dinner, offer unsolicited parenting advice. When his daughter-in-law seemed distant, he blamed her generation. Young people today don't value family. The truth? George had developed boundary blindness, the inability to see where helpfulness ends and intrusion begins. Here's the shocking statistic. 73% of adult children report feeling their aging parents don't respect their boundaries. But here's the heartbreak. Most parents have no idea. They think they're being loving, involved, helpful. The road to strained relationships is paved with good intentions. George's wake-up call came when he overheard his son, "I love Dad, but I need space to parent my own kids." It stung, but it also opened his eyes. He'd been so focused on being involved, he'd forgotten to be invited. His presence had become pressure. The solution requires humility. Ask, don't assume. When's a good time to visit? Instead of showing up. Would you like my input? Instead of giving it. Text before calling. Respect no as a complete sentence. George started asking. The first time his son said, "Actually, tomorrow would be better," it hurt. But then tomorrow came with a warm welcome instead of hidden frustration. Here's the paradox. The more you respect boundaries, the more often they're lowered. George's relationship with his family transformed. His daughter-in-law started asking for his advice. His grandkids got excited about planned visits. Space created closeness. What boundary might you be crossing without realizing it? 8. The comparison trap. Carol, 69, couldn't have a conversation without comparing. Her friend mentioned a cruise? Oh, the one we took was much nicer. Someone's grandchild made honor roll? All three of mine are straight A students. Every story triggered a comparison, and always in her favor. She thought she was sharing. Others felt diminished. The comparison trap intensifies with age. We've accumulated decades of experiences, achievements, stories. We want to relate, to show we understand. But constant comparing sends a different message. My experience matters more than yours. It turns conversations into competitions nobody wanted to enter. Carol noticed friends sharing less. Her sister stopped mentioning vacations. Her neighbor quit talking about her grandkids. Carol blamed them for being sensitive. Then her best friend said something that changed everything. "Carol, I don't tell you good news anymore because you always have something better." The antidote? The spotlight rule. When someone shares, keep the spotlight on them. Ask questions. Show interest. Celebrate their experience without redirecting to yours. If you must share something similar, use it to understand theirs better, not overshadow it. Carol practiced. When her friend mentioned a cruise, instead of comparing, she asked, "What was your favorite port?" When hearing about grandchildren, she said, "You must be so proud," without mentioning hers. The change was dramatic. Friends started sharing again. Conversations became richer. She learned amazing things about people she thought she knew. Here's the truth. Your experiences are valid, but so are everyone else's. Connection happens when we celebrate others' moments without making them about us. When did you last catch yourself comparing instead of connecting? 9. The Living in the Past Museum. Helen's home was a time capsule. Every conversation led to the good old days. Every modern problem had a solution from 1965. At 77, she'd become curator of a museum nobody wanted to visit. Her grandkids called her house boring. Her children dreaded visits filled with lectures about how much better things used to be. Helen wasn't just living in the past, she was trapped there. Here's what's happening. As we age, our long-term memories become more vivid while forming new memories gets harder. The past feels more real than the present. But when every conversation detours to decades ago, you become irrelevant to those living in today. The wake-up call? Helen's teenage granddaughter said, "Grandma, you never ask about my life. You only talk about yours when you were my age." Helen realized she knew everything about her own teenage years, but nothing about her granddaughter's current ones. The transformation started with the present-past balance. For every past story, engage with someone's present. Ask about their now, their hopes, fears, daily life. Helen started a journal of current events, not news, but family events. Granddaughter's soccer scores, son's new project, friends' retirement plans. She discovered something beautiful. When she engaged with others present, they became interested in her past. Her granddaughter started asking questions. "Grandma, what was dating like in the 60s?" The past became a bridge, not a barrier. Helen's stories found new life because they connected to current lives. Living memory beats museum any day. How often do your conversations drift to decades past? 10. The the invisible audience syndrome. At 71, Martin had strong opinions and no filter. Politics at dinner, religion at the grocery store, controversial jokes at family gatherings. When people grew quiet, he assumed they were thinking. They were, thinking about how to escape. Martin suffered from invisible audience syndrome, forgetting that every audience isn't your audience. As we age, we often feel we've earned the right to say anything. I'm too old to pretend. But there's a difference between authenticity and social blindness. Your nephew's wedding isn't the place for political rants. Your granddaughter's friends don't want to hear inappropriate jokes. Context matters, regardless of age. Martin's revelation came at his grandson's birthday party. Mid-political tirade, he noticed the room had emptied. His son pulled him aside. "Dad, you're making everyone uncomfortable." Martin was shocked. He thought he was being engaging. He was being exhausting. The solution? Read the room. Before launching into sensitive topics, ask yourself, is this the time? The place? The audience? Martin learned the temperature check. Start with neutral topics. Watch reactions. If people lean in, continue. If they lean out, change course. He started practicing social awareness. At the next gathering, he asked questions instead of making pronouncements. He noticed when topics made people shift uncomfortably. He discovered something surprising. When he stopped forcing his agenda, people actually started asking his opinions. Your views matter, but so does your audience's comfort. Wisdom isn't just having opinions, it's knowing when and how to share them. When was the last time you read the room before speaking? 11. The helplessness performance. Jean, 73, could run a household, manage investments, and solve crossword puzzles faster than anyone. But around her children, she became helpless. "I can't figure out this TV remote. This jar is too tight. I don't understand this bill." She wasn't really helpless. She discovered that helplessness got attention. But the attention came with a cost. The helplessness performance is manipulation disguised as need. It starts innocently. Maybe you genuinely need help once. The rush of care and attention feels good, so you need help again and again. Soon, you're performing incompetence for connection. But family members aren't fools. They sense the manipulation and begin to resent it. Jean's daughter finally snapped, "Mom, I saw you programming the coffee maker yesterday. Stop pretending you can't work the TV." The truth stung. Jean realized she'd been trading dignity for attention. Worse, her children had started avoiding her, anticipating manufactured crises. The shift required honesty. Jean acknowledged what she could do and asked for help only when genuinely needed. But here's the key. She found better ways to connect. Instead of "I can't figure out this recipe," she said, "Want to cook together?" Instead of false helplessness, she offered real partnership. The change was profound. Her children's visits became less dutiful, more joyful. They stopped seeing her as a burden and started seeing her as a person. Jean discovered that competence, not helplessness, earned real respect and connection. Asking for help is human. Performing helplessness is harmful. Which one are you doing? Chapter 12. The Emotional Vampire Mode. Every call from Paul, 76, followed a script. His health problems, his loneliness, his disappointments. His son started screening calls. His daughter limited visits to once a month. His friends found excuses to avoid coffee dates. Paul had become an emotional vampire, draining energy from every interaction, leaving others exhausted. We all have struggles, but when every conversation becomes a therapy session where others give and you only take, relationships become transactions. People start protecting their energy. They still love you, but love and exhaustion can't coexist forever. Paul's moment of clarity came when he called his son and heard his grandson in the background say, "Is it Grandpa? He always makes Daddy sad." That innocent observation shattered Paul's heart. He wasn't sharing, he was dumping. He wasn't connecting, he was consuming. The transformation required the energy exchange principle. Every conversation should be a two-way street. Share struggles, yes, but also ask about others. Celebrate their wins. Show interest in their challenges. Paul started timing himself, no more than 25% of any conversation on his problems. The first call was hard. Paul bit his tongue when health complaints bubbled up. Instead, he asked his son about work. His son, shocked, talked for 20 minutes. The call ended with laughter, first time in months. His grandson started asking to talk to Grandpa. Friends began suggesting coffee again. Paul learned that being interested made him interesting. Connection requires contribution, not just consumption. How balanced are your conversational energy exchanges? Number 13, the respect recession. At 78, Ruth believed respect was automatic. She'd lived longer, experienced more, survived harder times. When the young grocery clerk suggested a different checkout line, Ruth lectured about respecting elders. When her nephew disagreed about politics, she dismissed him as too young to understand. Ruth confused age with authority, demanding respect while showing none. The respect recession happens when we expect deference based solely on years lived. But respect isn't a birthday gift, it's a daily exchange. When you dismiss others' opinions due to age, invalidate their experiences, or demand special treatment, you're not earning respect. You're eroding it. Ruth's wake-up call came when her great-niece said, "Aunt Ruth doesn't listen to anyone younger than 70. The family nodded in agreement. Ruth realized she'd become the very thing she criticized in her own youth, someone who used age as a weapon. The solution? The mutual respect model. Treat the 20-year-old barista with the same consideration you want from them. Listen to younger perspectives. They're living in a world you need to understand. Age brings wisdom, but it doesn't grant immunity from learning." Ruth started really listening. When her nephew shared his views, instead of dismissing them, she asked questions. When young people offered help, she accepted graciously instead of defensively. Something magical happened. She started receiving the respect she'd been demanding. But now it was real, earned, mutual. Respect isn't about age, it's about acknowledgement. When you show others their thoughts and experiences matter, regardless of age, they naturally show you the same. How often do you dismiss someone's perspective based on their age? Remember Walter from the beginning? The grandfather who overheard that crushing phone conversation? He took this list seriously. One habit at a time, one day at a time. He started with the easiest, asking before giving advice. Then moved to harder ones, learning to text, catching his interruptions, balancing past stories with present interest. 6 months later, at Thanksgiving, Walter noticed something different. His grandson sat next to him by choice. His daughter lingered after dinner to chat. Conversations flowed naturally, filled with laughter instead of awkward silences. His son-in-law actually asked for his opinion on retirement planning. The biggest change? Walter felt relevant again, connected, vital. He wasn't just tolerated at family gatherings, he was sought out. His phone rang with real calls, not duty checks. His calendar filled with genuine invitations, not obligation visits. Here's what Walter learned. These habits aren't character flaws. They're human nature amplified by age. But awareness is the antidote. When you see these patterns, you can change them. When you change them, you transform not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You don't have to tackle all 13 at once. Pick one. The one that made you think, "Oh no, that's me." Start there. Small changes compound into transformation. Because here's the truth. It's never too late to become someone people genuinely want to be around. Your best relationships might not be behind you. They might be waiting just beyond your willingness to change. If this video opened your eyes to even one habit you want to change, you're already ahead of 90% of people your age. But awareness without action is just good intentions. So here's my challenge. Pick one habit from this list. Just one. Write it down. Share it in the comments below. Publicly committing makes you 70% more likely to follow through. Hit that like button if you're brave enough to admit you saw yourself in at least one of these habits. Subscribe and ring the bell. And remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every small change you make ripples out to every relationship you have.